Max lay quietly in the faded light of the animal shelter, a 17-year-old retired Siberian Husky whose once vibrant coat had now turned to soft shades of grey. In the gentle hum of the shelter's corridors, every step of the dedicated volunteer, Emma resonated with compassion and understanding. For over 15 years, Emma had tended to the forgotten souls who sought refuge there, but none had touched her heart quite like Max. His frail body and withdrawn demeanor were a living reminder of a loss too painful to name. He had been abandoned when his owner, a gentle soul whose love had once been endless, passed away. Now, Max was left alone with memories fading into the silence of his kennel. Within the shelter's worn walls, Emma often sat by Max's side during the quiet hours, speaking softly, as if to share secrets with an old friend. She would reminisce about days filled with warmth and laughter, moments when Max's eyes shone with the life of a proud companion. The shelter, though a temporary haven, was filled with the echoes of lost hopes and the promise of new beginnings. Yet, among all the stories of heartache and recovery, Max's silent suffering was perhaps the most poignant of all. Emma watched over Max with a quiet dedication that bordered on reverence. She recalled the first time she had seen him hunched in a corner, his eyes distant and his spirit broken. Emma had seen past the frailty and the scars, recognizing a soul that still yearned for connection. Every day, she would offer him gentle pats and whispered words of encouragement, though Max's responses were usually just a barely perceptible twitch of his tail, or the faintest glimmer of interest in his tired eyes. The shelter itself was a repository of both sorrow and hope. Each kennel held the stories of countless animals, each with its own tale of joy, neglect, and the endless cycle of finding love. But Max's story was different. His was a story of a life so fully lived that even the dimming of his physical body could not entirely erase the brilliance of his past. As the days went by, Emma found solace in caring for him, cherishing the quiet moments when their eyes met and a silent understanding passed between them. One autumn afternoon, as golden leaves danced around the shelter's entrance, a small figure appeared at the door. Mia, a gentle 6-year-old girl with eyes that held both wonder and sorrow, entered the shelter accompanied by her father, Chris. Mia's delicate frame carried the weight of a recent loss, the passing of her mother in a tragic car accident that had shattered her young world. Since that heartbreaking day, Mia's voice had grown quiet, and her smiles had become as rare as sunlit rainbows after a storm. Chris, who had long searched for a spark of hope in his daughter's tearful eyes, hoped that a day among the animals might bring a fragment of joy back into her life. He led her through the rows of kennels, each housing a potential friend, a companion who could perhaps mend her broken heart. However, Mia drifted past the noisy playfulness of the puppies and the lively barks of the younger dogs until her gaze settled upon one quiet kennel at the far end of the hall. There, behind a faded barrier, sat Max. His eyes, though clouded with the passage of time, held a deep sorrow that resonated with Mia. She paused, stepping closer to the glass as if drawn by an invisible thread of empathy. In that moment, Mia felt an unspoken kinship, a connection forged through shared loneliness and loss. She knelt by the kennel and in a voice soft as a whispered prayer said, "I feel the same way you do. I feel so alone." For a moment, the silence that had always enveloped Max seemed to break, as though her words had stirred something long dormant within him. Chris, who had been quietly watching, felt a shift in the air. It was as if the fragile hearts of both the girl and the ancient dog had found a mutual understanding, a silent promise of healing. The bond that formed in that hushed instant was enough for him to decide then and there that Max should leave the shelter, if only for a while. With cautious hope, he spoke to the shelter's staff, and arrangements were made for Max to be fostered in their home. The transition from the shelter to the warm embrace of a home was not instantaneous for Max. When he first arrived at Mia and Chris's house, he retreated into himself. His frail body barely stirred as he lay in a corner, watching the world with half-closed eyes. Mia, with her small hands and cautious curiosity, would sit beside him for long stretches of time. She brought along her favorite picture books and softly read aloud, her voice a blend of wonder and melancholy. Mia never pushed Max to be more than what he could be. Instead, she simply sat with him, sharing her quiet world filled with colorful illustrations and gentle stories. In the soft glow of the afternoon sun filtering through the window, the little girl would whisper secrets and dreams, treating Max as a confidant who, despite his silence, understood every word. The simplicity of her actions was profound, a silent declaration that even in the deepest loneliness, one could find a kindred spirit. As the days turned into weeks, a subtle transformation began to occur. Max, who had once been resigned to a life of isolation, started to stir at the sound of Mia's voice. The gentle cadence of her reading, the soft rustle of turning pages, and the warmth of her presence slowly coaxed him from his long-held shell. At first, it was a tentative wag of his tail, barely noticeable. Then came small, deliberate steps, as he began to follow Mia from room to room, as if drawn by an inexplicable desire to share in her comfort. Chris observed this change with a heart full of gratitude. He knew that the fragile connection between the girl and the dog was something extraordinary, a healing force that was mending both of their shattered worlds. In quiet moments, he would watch from the doorway as Mia sat with Max, their silence speaking volumes of unspoken promises and renewed hope. It was as if each gentle touch and each whispered word was a step towards reclaiming the joy that had once seemed so distant. Spring had arrived in gentle bursts of color, yet even the vibrant blossoms outside could not fully capture the fragile beauty of the transformation unfolding within the home. Mia's laughter, though still soft, began to echo in the halls, and Max's once dormant spirit found new strength. However, life's challenges have a way of testing even the most fragile of recoveries. One bright afternoon, while Mia played in the backyard, a sudden disturbance shattered the newfound peace. A stray dog, wild and unrestrained, entered the yard with a menacing air. Its growls and bared teeth sent a chill through the warm day, and Mia froze in terror as the intruder approached her slowly. The yard, which had once been a sanctuary of soft grass and gentle breezes, now seemed filled with danger. Max, sensing the imminent threat to the child who had become his beacon of hope, rose from his resting place with a determination that belied his age. Though his body was frail and his steps unsteady, he positioned himself between Mia and the aggressive dog. With a low, resounding bark that carried the weight of years and the urgency of protection, Max stood as a steadfast guardian. His bark was not merely a sound, it was a declaration, an assertion that no harm would come to the one he had grown to love. The stray, taken aback by the unexpected courage of the aged husky, hesitated. The confrontation was brief, the aggressor's resolve crumbling under the force of Max's protective stance. With a final threatening snarl, the intruder retreated back into the neighborhood, leaving behind a silence that was both relieved and heavy with the cost of bravery. But the victory came at a steep price. Max, having given all his strength to safeguard Mia, collapsed onto the soft earth. In that heart-stopping moment, time seemed to slow to a crawl. Mia, rushing out with tears streaming down her face, cradled the brave dog in her arms as Chris hurried to call for help. The world around them became a blur of panic and quiet prayers as they rushed Max to the veterinary clinic. At the clinic, the veterinarian's gentle hands and kind words provided a semblance of hope. Tests and examinations revealed that Max had not suffered a grievous injury, only a profound exhaustion that came from years of selfless devotion. The diagnosis, though alarming, was tempered by the knowledge that Max's heart had been given to protect another. In that sterile, softly lit room, the bravery of one old dog had rekindled the spirit of a young girl, offering her a newfound sense of safety and the courage to dream again. In the weeks that followed, as Max recovered from his ordeal, the home became a haven of quiet healing. The scare had left its mark, But it also underscored the deep bond between Mia and Max. Each day, as the first light of dawn filtered through the curtains, Mia would sit by Max's side, her small hand stroking his graying fur with gentle reverence. In these moments, the air was filled with the soft rustle of pages turning, the muted hum of the world outside, and the shared silence that spoke louder than words. Mia began to find her voice again. It started with a whisper, a tentative word spoken to the wind, and slowly blossomed into sentences filled with hope and curiosity. She would recount tales of her mother's kindness and the laughter they once shared, her voice mingling sorrow with the gentle glow of remembrance. With each story told, Mia's spirit grew a little brighter, and the burden of her grief felt a little lighter. Max, too, found solace in these quiet rituals. His eyes, once dull with resignation, began to sparkle with the light of understanding. The moments of shared tenderness, the unspoken promise that they would face the future together, seemed to breathe new life into him. Every small wag of his tail, every soft whine of acknowledgement, was a silent thank you to the girl who had dared to break the walls of loneliness that had once confined him. Chris, witnessing the transformation unfolding before him, could not help but marvel at the resilience of the human and animal spirit. He saw in Mia the gradual return of a vibrant soul that had been dimmed by tragedy, and in Max, the reawakening of a spirit that had once been resigned to fading away. Their journey, though fraught with moments of despair, was a testament to the power of compassion and the redemptive nature of love. In the quiet evenings, as shadows lengthened and the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Mia and Max would share a silent vigil by the window. They watched as the world outside continued its endless dance of day and night, each moment a reminder that even in the darkest times, there was beauty to be found. The home, once echoing with the sounds of pain and uncertainty, had transformed into a sanctuary where every heartbeat was a note in the symphony of healing. The seasons turned once more, and the gentle warmth of summer gave way to the cool embrace of autumn. Max's recovery had brought him a renewed sense of purpose, yet time, as it always does, marched forward relentlessly. The old dog, who had found a second wind in the twilight of his life, knew that his days were numbered. His body, though resilient, in spirit, could no longer defy the passage of time. One crisp, clear morning, as golden leaves fell in slow, graceful arcs outside the window, Max lay in his favorite spot, a cozy corner where Mia would often sit with a book in hand. The room was filled with a tender silence, a quiet prelude to the inevitable farewell. Mia, now a little older and a little braver, sensed the change in the air. She sat beside Max, her eyes filled with a sorrow that transcended words, and whispered softly, "Thank you for loving me, Max. I will always remember you." Chris, standing in the doorway, felt a lump in his throat as he watched the intimate exchange. Emma, too, had been a silent witness to the incredible journey of this remarkable dog, from the isolation of the shelter to the warmth of a loving home. In that quiet room, every memory, every moment of shared joy and pain wove together into a tapestry of profound meaning. Max's breathing grew softer, his eyes slowly closing as if to say goodbye to a world he had guarded with every ounce of his being. His final moments were not marked by pain or fear, but by the gentle assurance of a life lived in service of love. The old husky passed away peacefully, his spirit forever entwined with the hearts he had touched. The room seemed to hold its breath in a final moment of reverence, honoring the sacrifice of a creature who had given everything for the sake of another. In the days that followed, the home felt strangely quiet, as if a chapter had closed on a beloved story. Mia's eyes, though tinged with grief, shone with a newfound strength, a strength born from the memory of a dog who had shown her what it meant to be truly loved. The loss of Max was a bittersweet reminder that every life, no matter how fragile, leaves an indelible mark on the hearts of those it touches. Mia's recovery continued, bolstered by the love and memories that Max had left behind. The house, once filled with the soft murmur of their quiet companionship, now resonated with the sound of Mia's laughter, a sound that carried within it the echoes of bravery, hope, and endless love. In time, the girl's sorrow transformed into a determination to keep Max's legacy alive. She would often return to the shelter, where the story of the old husky was still whispered among the volunteers and the other animals who had once known him. It was on one such visit that Mia, now more confident and warm-hearted, met another gentle soul in need, a senior dog with soulful eyes and a quiet manner. The cycle of compassion that Max had once ignited in her heart was now set to continue. With the guidance of Emma and the support of her father, Mia made the heartfelt decision to adopt this new friend, ensuring that love would never again be lost to loneliness. As the new dog settled into Mia's care, the memories of Max remained a guiding light in her life. Every step she took, every smile she shared, was a testament to the healing power of unconditional love. Chris watched with pride as his daughter grew into a young woman who understood that even in the face of loss, life continued to offer moments of grace and beauty. In the quiet corners of the shelter, where Max had once languished in sorrow, there now blossomed a renewed sense of hope. Emma, with her ever-watchful eyes and compassionate heart, continued to care for every animal that passed through those familiar doors. Each one carried a story, a fragment of life that echoed the endless cycle of love, loss, and recovery. Max's story had become more than just a tale of an old dog. It was a legacy of resilience and tenderness that resonated with every soul who heard it. His life, marked by both sorrow and joy, had transformed the hearts of those around him. Mia's gentle spirit, now emboldened by the memories of her faithful friend, went forth into the world with a courage that could only be born from the depths of true love. In every quiet moment, in every soft-spoken word of kindness, the memory of Max lived on, a reminder that even the smallest acts of love could light the darkest of days. And so, as the sun rose and set over the shelter and the home alike, the story of an old husky, a brave little girl, and a world filled with silent promises continued to unfold. It was a story without an end, a perpetual journey of healing, connection, and the everlasting power of compassion. The legacy of Max, the guardian of hope, echoed softly in the hearts of all who had known him. His life, though finite, had sparked an infinite chain of kindness that would carry on for generations to come. Every shared smile, every tender touch, and every whispered word of comfort stood as living proof that love endures, even in the face of inevitable farewell. In the quiet aftermath of loss, as the gentle wind carried memories through the open window, Mia would often sit and reflect on the timeless lesson that Max had imparted. That every end is but a new beginning, and every heart that has been touched by love is forever enriched. And in that sacred space, where grief met hope, the spirit of an old, wise husky continued to guide her along the endless path of life. As the final chapter closed on Max's earthly journey, the echoes of his courage and devotion lingered, inspiring all who heard his story to cherish the fleeting moments of connection that make life worth living. In the soft glow of twilight, amidst the rustle of autumn leaves and the distant murmur of a waking world, the promise of renewal shimmered on, the horizon a promise that as long as there were hearts willing to love, hope would never fade away.